Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ariel and I make videos about books. Today we're going to be talking about 23 books that I have to read in 2023. If I don't read these books, I have to get rid of them. It's just not going to happen between us, and I have to accept that. Because some of these books I have had for several years. Like, I think, like, some of these I've bought in college, which was 3 years ago? I think 3 years. Yeah, I graduated when I was 21 and I'm 24. So I've had some of these books for over 3 years, which is concerning. And I haven't read them. So they're taking up space on my shelf. They're, you know, adding like mental clutter to my brain. I look at them and I think, why have you been sitting there that long? I grabbed all of them that I have been pushing off for quite some time, and I have them sitting over here, and we're gonna go through them, and I'll tell you kind of why I haven't reached for them, what I am put off by, and if you could in the comments tell me which ones you like and like force me to get moving with them, that would be very, very good, because I need some motivation to get through some of these. I'm also going to be open to DNFing some of these. I never DNF, but I think I've had them for so long that if I read them and I don't love them, I'm just gonna stop and get rid of them, because it's making my brain hurt just seeing them. It makes my soul hurt being like, it's just been sitting there for years. So yes, that was a long-winded way to say these are 23 books that I have to read in 2023, and if I don't, they're going bye-bye. I don't really have an order with this. I'm just gonna like pick whatever. We'll start with here. Wuthering Heights, everyone. Wuthering Heights I have been wanting to read for so many years, like since like college, when I like first got into reading again, and I read Emma, and then I don't know why, but I was like, I should read Wuthering Heights next. I wanted to read a Bronte, and instead I read Jane Eyre, and I do not regret that, because that is one of my favorite books now. But I want to see what the hype is with this, so we have to get to her. Sticking with the classics, because they're right there in my vision. 9 Stories by J.D. Salinger. I feel like I've raved about like some of his stories, like Franny and Zoe I loved, and I just really like his writing style, but I haven't read this, and it's been sitting there just taking up space, and I don't know why I haven't read it. So I need to get to that. It's really hard for me to read short story collections, because I may like read front to back person. I don't like putting it down and then like stepping away and then coming back to it. So I think I just need to pick a month where I'm like, you will read a story a day or a story every few days, you know? Then I have Persuasion by Jane Austen. I know nothing about this Jane Austen book. Like, I feel like I have a general idea of all of her books, but Persuasion I have no clue about, which is why I'm not drawn to reading it. This and Mansfield Park I don't know anything about, but I want to get through all of her works, and I have had Persuasion sitting, this specific copy, on my shelf for very long, and I just feel like it's the year. It's the year to read it. I'm currently reading Sense and Sensibility, so maybe in a few months I'll get to that. Then I really need to put all of my Murakami books on this list, but that would waste a lot of real estate, and I don't think I would get to all of them, so we're not doing that. But we are putting Norwegian Wood on the list. This is the Murakami book I'm most drawn to, mainly because there is like a romance in it, I believe, and I love a good romance. But I've had this copy for a while, and I have just like wanted to read this for a while. Like I literally, for years, I have been like, ooh, I want to read that, but I'm a little snob about my covers, and I only wanted this cover because it's so cute, and the new Murakami covers are ugly. So I waited until I was at a thrift store and I found this and I snatched it up, but I have yet to read it, and I need to just do that. And it's under 300 pages, so I literally have no excuse. I need to read it. Also, I'll look like such a cool girl reading this, like in a park. I'll look so cool. So there's like so many incentives for me to read it, but I haven't, and I need to promptly. Then I think this, no, we have like a few more classics. This book, Tess of D'Urbervilles, I don't know, but Tess. Do not read the back of this. Don't look at it. Don't read it. Don't do it, because I did, and there are so many spoilers on it. Is it this, or it might be like the introduction at the beginning of it, but I read somewhere, or maybe it was the Amazon description, I don't know. Just don't read the description of this, because it spoiled literally everything, like the entire storyline. So I'm not very motivated to read it because I know what's going to happen, which is why I don't like watching movies before reading the book. So I'm not very motivated to read this, but I've heard very good things about it, so I want to read it, but it's just hard to force myself. I think I'll probably do this on audiobook and switch back and forth, because that would motivate me to get to it faster. The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. I have had this for so long. I'm saying that with every book, but it's because I have had especially these classics for so long because they're so cheap. I have gotten all of these classics from thrift stores, so there's like an easy incentive for me to buy it, but then actually reading it is harder. And I'm very interested by this Toni Morrison in particular, and I've never read her works, and I feel like that is such a shame. So I need to do that this year. The Kite Runner. I hate sad books, usually, because they make me sad. And I don't want a book to make me sad a lot of the times. But this is just such a like raved about book that I really want to read it. And I'm doing like I want to read a book from every country in my lifetime. So this could count, because I think he's from Afghanistan. I don't know if it's translated, but yes. So that could count for that, which is good motivation to read it. And I mean, it's just, I've heard so many good things, but I've also heard that it is terribly sad. I think I might read this soon though, because I feel like I'm in a good place to read a sad book and enjoy it. Now we're on to normal books, I guess. Normal People. This is another case like Tess of D'Urbervilles, where I watched the movie for this. Why do I have this 20% still on there? I watched the movie TV show series on Hulu for this, and I loved it. But since I know what happens, I'm not motivated to pick up the book. But it's Sally Rooney's writing, and I do like her writing. I've only read that one book, Beautiful World, Where Are You? That one. And I like her writing, so I think even though I know like the general plot, it will be much more about the writing and what the characters are saying to each other. So I need to just bite the bullet and read it. Also, it left behind, like, do you see that? Like the sticky residue Ooh, we have a few romances that I need to get to. I didn't start reading romances until like last year very avidly, and I acquired a lot of romances. So I have more than this, but these I've had for a while and I feel like are very raved about romances that I feel out of the loop not having read. So we're gonna read them this year. And that is Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I loved Beach Read, and then I read People We Meet on Vacation, and I hated it. So I don't know how I'm gonna feel about this. I feel like a lot of people that liked Beach Read also liked this, so I think I'll like it more, but that's what's kind of keeping me from reading it, is I'm like, will I like it? But I need to just go for it. Have Love on the Brain, and this is Ali Hazelwood's new book, and I love, not new, it came out last year, and yeah, I loved what was it called? The Love Hypothesis. Loved that. And so I need to do this, but it sounds so similar to The Love Hypothesis that I'm not very motivated to read it, because I'm like, I already read that. But I did like the, you know, character relationships in that one, so I'll probably like this. So I just need to do that. Then we have Love and Other Words in this cover that I love. And I mean, this is like the Christina Lauren book to read, so I need to read it. And that's about it for that. I feel out of the loop not having read that. Then I started the Dreamland Billionaire series last year, and I read The Fine Print, and I own Terms and Conditions, but I just have never read it. And I feel like I've lost the steam to read it because it's been so long since I read the first one. So I need to pick this up and just read it, because I did really like her writing for romances. So I know I'm gonna like it. So I need to read it. Duh. But I'm never in the mood for a romance in the winter unless it's like a classic. And then summertime, I'm like only in the mood for romances. So I'll probably leave most of these for the summertime. I'm probably gonna read some of them around Valentine's Day because the vibes are there for it. But those will kind of be left for the summertime. Okay, this book I've had for so freaking long, and I have zero motivation to read it. Zero. So if like you've read this and you like it, tell me, because I need to read it. Room. This is also a very famous movie. Like, it was adapted to become a movie, and that is another big reason why I don't want to read it, because I didn't know the movie existed when I bought this. I just bought it because the premise was interesting, and now that I know that it's a amazing movie as well, I just want to watch the movie and not sit through the whole book. Because if I know that it's an amazing movie, why do I have to read the book, you know? Like, usually the movies aren't that good compared to the book, but this one, it kind of sounds like the movie might be better because no one talks about the book, but they talk about the movie. So this one might be one that I begin. If it's not catching me within the first 50 pages, I'm just gonna stop and watch the movie. So let me know if you've read this and if it's worth my time. Then I have another short story collection, Her Body and Other Parties. I have had this one for a while, and I bought it because the cover is cute. And I knew nothing about them. Then I learned who Carmen Maria Machado is, and she's like a horror writer. And now I'm much more interested in reading this. I thought it was just gonna be like feminist kind of stories based on the title, but I guess it's that with like an added horror element. So I am way more excited now about this, and I need to just get to it. I need to be in my short story era because I have a lot of those collections. Then I got this at the start of 2021 at the Barnes & Noble. Half off all hardcover book sales. This is Dog Park, which is a translated novel from a... She's from Finland and Estonia. So I could count this for one of my like translated books from the world. So I need to read it. And this is partially a cover by. I've literally never heard anyone talk about this. And it sounded interesting. So I need to read it, but I'm really bad at reading books that no one talks about, which is toxic of me. But I will be reading this hopefully soon. I'm saying that with all the books, and I can't read 23 books all soon, so we'll see. The Husband's Secret. This is another thrift store buy that I got many years ago. It's Liane Moriarty. I do really like Liane Moriarty's writing, but I also find it so unsatisfying. Like every book I've read from her, I have a great time during it, but the payoff at the end, the like twists are always so bad. I'm saying always. I've only read Big Little Lies and 9 Perfect Strangers, but both of them I was very disappointed at the end. So I'm not excited to pick this up, but I had a great time with the other ones until the end. So it's much more like, it's about the journey, not the destination, but I want the destination to be good. And so far, her books have not given me that. So we'll see. This might be a DNF, I'm feeling, but I'll keep an open mind for now. The Paris Hours, another thrift store buy. I feel like I find so many book of the month books at Goodwill, which is great because they're like great quality. I don't know much about this book. I just got it because it was a book of the month book and it was at the beginning of my reading journey, so I didn't know much, but I knew book of the month usually has some pretty good books, so let's buy it. It's a historical fiction because it takes place in 1927, and I have been wanting to read more historical fiction. I was very into it in 2021. I read a lot of historical fiction, and then last year I stopped and I don't think I read one. So I need to get back into it because it was a genre that I enjoyed a lot, and then I just stopped. And I love books set in Paris, so why have I not read that? Then another one I need to get to, Less, which this book is just very popular, and it just came out with the next book in the duet series, whatever it is, and it sounds so interesting. It sounds like one of those books that will really speak to me. Like I'll be like, oh, this book was written for me. And it's the winner of the Pulitzer Prize. So all signs are pointing to reading this book. But again, it's just like I don't have motivation for it because it's been sitting on my shelf for so long. So need to re-up that motivation. Then we're down to the final ones. We have The Clockmaker's Daughter. This is giant. This is another book of the month book I got at Goodwill, and it's huge. And I think it's kind of fantasy, which I'm not super into, but the premise sounded interesting. I have now completely forgotten the premise, but it sounded interesting. So we need to at least give this a shot. Also, I'm so glad Book of the Month doesn't do this anymore because this must be an older, yeah, it was from October of 2018. Like, it's just a giant picture of the author on the back. I don't know. I don't like that design. Then, this book I've had forever. It was initially a cover buy that now is I genuinely want to read it because of I've heard good things, and that is Severance by Ling Ma. And why do I say the name of some authors but not others? I don't know. But yes, this is a kind of, I think, dystopian-ish book, and I want to read it because it has just been sitting there. Okay, then another book of the month from Goodwill, Imposter Syndrome. This takes place in like the tech Silicon Valley kind of area, and it's stuff with that. And I really like don't have a very burning interest to read this, and kind of all of these book of the month ones that are on this list I don't have a burning interest to read because I just bought them because they were book of the month and I was at the beginning of my journey, like I said, my book journey. So we'll see. I just need to pick it up, start reading. If I don't like it, DNF. Then I have the Night Circus that I don't have the cover for, which partially, honestly, that is what is stopping me from reading it. I love a cover, and so this is giving me nothing, and I'm not reaching to pick it up because of it, which is very shallow, but that's how the mind works. That's why covers exist, to draw you in, and currently I have nothing to draw me in. I've heard very mixed reviews, I guess, about this, where a lot of people love it, but there's also a good amount that I've heard bad things from. So I'm not totally excited to read this, but I think I want to read it in like the fall time and make my own opinion. Last book, and this is, I'm sure, on many people's unread list that they've had for a while because it is so popular, so talked about. I feel like everyone has it, but it's also a mammoth to get through and is intimidating, and that is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. And yeah, like many, want to read this so very bad, but I just keep putting it off and off because it's so intimidating. But I'm definitely in my big book era. I just finished Middlemarch, which took me like half a year to read, but that's like an 800-page book. And at the end of it, I was like, I really liked, like at the end of it, I didn't want to leave the characters, and I felt just so connected to them in a way that you don't get with 300-page books. And I really liked that feeling, so I want to keep that going by reading some of the big scary books that I have on my shelf. And this is definitely one of those. So we will get to you, guaranteed, this year. I've said that for the past like 2 years. So those are the 23 books that I have for 2023. And let me know which ones I should read and motivate me, please, 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 because I have no motivation to read a good majority of these. And also on my book cart, I'm going to put them in this section. That's where they were, so that I see them and I have to kind of, you know, move them up to my reading of my TBR of the month every month. So I think that will be a good strategy, and just finding people that are recommending it, because I'm a sucker for peer pressure. So yes, thank you for watching, and have a good rest of your day, and pick up a book that you haven't read, because we all need to. All right, bye. A book that you haven't read that is on your shelf. I didn't clarify that. Something that is on your shelf, because I know you have one. Bye.